What is up, everybody? Hope you had a great holidays. This is the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is your NFL week number 13 betting preview. We're going to talk about our favorite sides, totals, teasers, underdog money lines, and of course, we'll crack open our weekly Sunday six-pack of Against the Spread bets with the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stucky. Stuck, what is good? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great. Quarter. Everything was great. Just grinding. It's just another Thursday. But no complaints here. How about yours?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Had some relaxation time. Doing all the work to get everything out by Wednesday actually is cool because you get like a midweek break, which you really don't ever get. I know you're probably doing college, but for me, it's kind of a chill Thursday into Friday.
Yeah, I spent time trying to catch up on college basketball, so wasn't really a big break. By the way, we're going to talk about this game coming in the six pack. I'm a little worried though. Any concern for? Okay, never mind. I just saw D'Amico Ryan's. I looked it up myself. Tanked out in practice today, but D'Amico Ryan said he's fine.
Yeah, Wednesday practices, which we are recording this pod on Wednesday, obviously, as you guys will see, but some people will listen later. Wednesday practice reports generally you're not going to glean much. Meaningful.
I just didn't know he had a calf injury, so I just saw didn't practice calf, so I was a little. But D'Amico Ryan said he'll be okay.
Well, the Texans just have a rule that they cannot have their top four receivers healthy in any game because they haven't yet. It's already week 13. But Noah Brown did return to practice. But Dell is the key. I mean, you could even do it out Nico, but I mean, Dell, 58-yard catch got called back by a silly ticky-tack penalty last week. The refs had it out for.
That was one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen. Yeah. One of our losers last week. Another good week for the pod, but the pass interference calls.
Oh my God!
They were all phantom, and they were all on third down, leading to touchdowns. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and we've seen Trevor Lawrence in the past have these issues where they get in the red zone and they just can't get it done, and I feel like they just bailed him out. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, there's been a couple of sticky situations due to the kicker situation. Kaimi Fairbairn getting injured in that game, then they take the knee on the 2-point conversion. So, luckily I, mentioned taking the money line, but a lot of people probably missed out on that cover. And then obviously, and then this one right here. So, kickers, they are still important, but let's get into Thursday Night Football. Let's do it. So we got Seattle at Dallas. Seahawks are +9 on the road in Jerry World, a total 47.5. I do think this number, just from a strict modeling standpoint, is a bit high for Dallas, but it's Dallas or nothing for me. I'm not betting this game, but it would be Dallas or nothing just because they've been so dominant at home. You've talked about the changes they made coming out of the bye, throwing more on the early downs, really kind of fixing some of the glitches in that offense, and Geno Smith going up against pressure and man coverage. This is the highest rate of man coverage defense in the league through 12 weeks. That tends to give these Seahawks skill position players issues in addition to Smith, who really struggles. And when he can't, when he doesn't have time in the pocket, that's where you see the Seahawks. I mean, they're one of the worst teams on third down. They kind of live off explosives. So against a defense like this, kind of like San Francisco last week, where you could kind of see the blowout coming. Now, you do have a full week off here, so maybe Seattle will be a little more ready to go, but terrible matchup from my vantage point. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think the line's a little high, just like my raw projection, but I mentioned this to you, for the last month. I don't want to get in front of this Dallas train. Since the bye week, Dallas has been on a roll. They did everything that I've been wanting to do on offense. Dak running, throwing early downs, more motion. Offensive line now fully healthy. I mean, you saw them against the Eagles. They dominated that game. and just ran into the Eagles voodoo. And they've been crushing teams since. This team's rolling. I mean, since the bye week, their defense is rolling too. They fixed everything post Diggs. I mean, Duron Bland, you can throw out the pick sixes. I mean, he's given up, I think, the lowest passer rating in the NFL. Marquise Bell, better than Van Der Esch. I mean, obviously they can get a pass rusher. It's not a great matchup for Geno Smith. Man coverage, heavy pressure. That's his kryptonite, which is Dallas to a T. So this isn't a great matchup. It is a good spot. So Seattle needs this game. I mean, look, I think they have San Fran coming up again, Philly. I mean, this is, I know the NFC is weak, but this is close to a must-win for Seattle. And Dallas has Philly on deck. So, maybe they don't really want to run it up here, show a lot, stay healthy, rest up for Philly next week. But yeah, it's just not a great matchup. And we also don't know how healthy Geno Smith is. Pete Carroll says he's a lot healthier. He looks night and day. Different than what he did last week. But Pete Carroll always has rosy injury reports for his players. So I think it's a little high. It's a good spot, bad matchup. I don't want to get in front of this Dallas train. And I hate Thursday night football. So probably a pass. If it got to 10, I'm sure the Cowboys are going to take heavy public action in a primetime Island game. I'd probably make a small bet on Seattle. But this Dallas team's rolling. Even if I don't bet Seattle, I will be rooting for Seattle. Whether it's a fluky win, a close loss, just so Dallas doesn't get... I want Dallas under a field goal next week against the Eagles. That's the goal.
Yeah, I feel you there. That Eagles team, we will, I'm sure, talk about at length coming up. I'll just give everyone a trend to close with, just because, I do think it's fascinating when we see favorite trends that sustain over time, because those are the ones that generally the books are going to be the quickest to adjust for. Dak Prescott favored by 6 points or more, 30-11 against the spread, 73%, 6-1, 86% this season. If you have bet every Dak game where they're favored by 6 or more, just this year alone, you'd have a 63% ROI over his entire career. If you bet every one of the 42 games, there was one push in there, you'd have a 41% ROI according to our Action Labs data. So the Cowboys are, that team that, again, I think we both agree that this line is a little bit high, probably closer to 8.5, but I'm starting to give Dallas a little bit more home field advantage. Just this combination of this defense with the pressure, and Dak has always played better at home. It's been a real struggle for teams to even stay close with this team, especially when they're at home. So
it's a slippery slope. And then you have the crowd noise.
Yep.
If Dallas gets up on a bad team, an inferior team, that's when their defense tees off, and then everything just flows from there. And that's, it's not just that Dak is so much better than every other quarterback against bad teams. It's that he's good. And then you also has a defense that is just such a great front runner. So it's a bad defensive matchup for Geno. I'm sure Seattle probably wants to come in here, run the ball. I have to attack Dallas. But if they get behind, because this Dallas offense is rolling, so then you're asking Geno to drop back and throw against pressure, against man. And then that's when mistakes could happen. And then if he's not even fully healthy, it could get ugly. So probably a pass.
All right, let's go right into our Week 13 Sunday Six Pack.
Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday Six Pack.
So 44-42 me. You're posing some ground here. 2 points for our first two picks, one for the third, one for the total, and one more if you sweep all four of those. And shout out to our producer, Matt Mitchell, wanted us to mention that our against the spread record on these 6-pack picks, 60%. So hope everyone out there has been making some money tailing the picks, and we'll try to keep it going.
Try to keep it rolling. One losing week. And we're locking these in all at one time. So it's been another good season, but as I always say, it's on to the next week. So let's try to get some winners this week.
Yeah. 8 out of 12 weeks we have been at least 4-2. 4-2 or 5-1. Still haven't got that 6-0 sweep. Only one time did we have a week with more than 3 losses. So I've been fairly consistent. Hope that's good.
With some awful beats too. We've had about 6 or 7 like once a year beats.
It happens.
So the Patriots won, the Texans extra point,
Ravens,
the Ravens against the Cardinals. So yeah, it's always nice when you can still be rolling along. Well, makes those losses easier to swallow. When you're running bad and not, picking winners and then having those losses, that's when it's the worst on Sundays. So yeah, let's keep it rolling.
All right, for my first pick and the first overall of the week number 13 Sunday 6-pack, going with the Arizona Cardinals plus 5.5 at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh, still the luckiest team in football. Check out our luck rankings. They're great, but they kind of point out when teams have been scoring above or below their expected score once you adjust for, opponent field goal luck and all the other kind of lucky random kind of things that happen in games that the team has no control over. Listen, I watched every snap of Pittsburgh all year, of every team, but really closely watched this Pittsburgh team because it was the first game without Matt Canada, first game in 4 years going over 400 yards. It wasn't great.
On over 400 yards the game before Matt Canada got there, and then went over 400 yards the day. You can't make that up. Over 400 yards for the first time the game after he left.
Yeah. And, we've seen this a bunch now where, unfortunately for the pod and, kind of sometimes when you get in front of these coaching changes, you just come out on the wrong side. And that was the case last week. Pittsburgh decided to have a decent offensive showing. It could have been more. Deontay Johnson. I mean, Deontay Johnson just is like. Any thoughts on Deontay Johnson before I get into this pick? Because I feel like I watched this dude. That drop touchdown was soft. Half the time he catches a pass, he's running sideways or backwards. He just kind of is this dude soft or what?
There was a run play where he didn't block at all.
He didn't look for the cover of the fumble. That he walked right away from it.
It's I don't know. There's definitely something. There's definitely something going on there.
Yeah, it's probably mental attitude, whatever. But maybe that touchdown deficit streak, whatever, did something to him. But either way, Kenny Pickett is still 30th of 38 quarterbacks in rating from a clean pocket. Pickett missed a bunch. He just misses a bunch of throws every week. And this is why the Cardinals in this kind of spot are, I think, a perfect kind of team to cover, even if they end up maybe losing by 3. But I think the Cardinals could win this game because Kenny Pickett, it's not really going to matter whether you got pressure or you don't. He just misses throws, whether he's pressured or not. He's actually been running well in terms of turnover luck lately, hasn't really turned it over. So that could happen at any time, given the way he's throwing the football. But on the other side, Kyler Murray, some mobility to get away from Watt and Hayward and those guys. And I just love the spot for both sides from the Pittsburgh perspective. You're coming off a big win in the division. Now you're a home favorite. Mike Tomlin as a favorite by more than a field goal coming off a win, 28 47-1 against the spread, just 37%. And on the other side, Arizona, who we faded last week, and they got blown out, after that first drive, really couldn't get it going. But Dogs coming off a loss of 20 or more points, 120, 79-4, 60% since 2017 against the spread. And for whatever reason, and I talked about this last week, Kyler Murray, I don't know if he presses or if it's something, more to do with just the market and the models or what, but always seem to overrate the Cardinals at home and then underrate them on the road. So to that point, Kyler Murray as a road underdog, 14-4 against the spread, 78%, covering by an average of 8.3 points per game. So I think Arizona can stay close here. Hoping we get Wilson back. Not sure if we will, but that'll help. But you have Connor, you have Murray, Marquise Brown, McBride's playing well, and on the other side, Arizona's defense is not good. Pittsburgh is going to be able to run, and they'll put up their rushing yardage, but I still don't trust Pickett. I still think he can make just as many mistakes or just miss throws when he's not pressured as when he is. So this Cardinal defense that really not going to get too much pressure, but they do have some solid safeties. So they could, Kenny Pickett still could be in some trouble here on some of his throws, even though his defense has been one of the worst in the league. So Pittsburgh could easily win this game like 17-13, and you cover the numbers. So fading Pittsburgh, the luckiest team. Also, this is the top luck ranking matchup of the week. Pittsburgh number 1, Arizona 18th. A gap of 32% is the highest of the week, just edging out the 49ers against Philly, which I have a gut feeling we'll be talking about in just a second. So Arizona plus 5.5. And if you can find it, I've seen some 5.5s with the juice, minus 105 instead of minus 110. If you can get anything, 120 or under, I don't mind buying up to the 6. It is a key number. But that's just throwing that out there. That is what I did betting these on Wednesday. So depending on when you're listening to this, that opportunity might be gone. But if it's there, look out for that as well. But Arizona plus 5.5 at Pittsburgh.
I will have more on this game in the total section. So I'll just go to my first pick in the second overall of the week 13 Sunday 6-pack. I am going with the San Francisco 49ers minus 2.5. This is good up to minus 120. Shop around as always, and try to get the best number. But I love this spot. Number one, let's just talk about the spot. Obviously, a playoff revenge here from last year. San Fran has had this game circled. I'm sure that Shanahan has been working on a game. He's probably been working on his script for this game for, I don't know, since that game ended when they had to play with McCaffrey as quarterback. So San Fran has this game circled. But more importantly, just where this game comes in this schedule. Philadelphia got their playoff revenge against Kansas City. Then, in a game that went right down to the wire. Then, on a short week, they play Buffalo in a game that goes to overtime in a complete war from start to finish. They were on the field. Their defense was on the field for 95 plays, and they suffered injuries. Cunningham, who's been pretty good at linebacker position, they have no depth on. He's out. Fletcher Cox got banged up. Davis got banged up. They still don't have a slot. Their corners, Bradbury and Slayer, just not playing well. Maybe that 30 Cliff. I don't know. But when you look at this Eagles defense, it has holes over the middle of the field. They can't cover tight ends. The Maddox injury is just so big. That's everywhere where the 49ers can attack. On the other side, 49ers extended rest here. They played on Thursday. Burford came back. They're basically fully healthy. And they had a 3-game losing streak when Debo and Trent Williams, who's still the best left tackle in football, were out. They're 8-0 when both them play with an average scoring margin of 21 points. They are bludgeoning teams. They are playing unbelievable football. They also have added Chase Young and Lane Johnson might not go. He says he's going to play, but it's going to rain. And what happened last week? It was going to rain. You don't want to put him out there with a groin. So I think he's iffier. Lane Johnson's a warrior, one of the best right tackles in the NFL. But with rain, the Cowboys on deck, I think it's a little iffier than some are saying. And that Eagles offense, which is completely out of rhythm right now. They've capitalized. They've been one of the luckiest teams. I think they're the second luckiest team. I don't know what's in the water in Pennsylvania this year, but they've won 4 straight games trailing at the half, being outgained by 100+ yards. They had no business beating the Bills, no business beating the Cowboys. The Chiefs drop all of those passes. This is a team that's 7-1 in one possession games this year. So Diaz holes. O isn't in rhythm. They're dealing with injuries. They really miss Dallas Goedert. He says he's going to play. He says he's trying to play. I think he's probably more likely for next week against Dallas. But it's a banged up team, and it's got to be exhausted after this run. San Fran comes in much healthier and much more well-rested. And San Francisco, not only is their offense, when their offense is at full strength, I think it's the best in the NFL. Their defense has also made a drastic turnaround. I mentioned that they traded for Chase Young. That was a huge weakness on the other side of Bosa. And what that does is it allows Bosa, Armstead, Hargrave to get one-on-one matchups. And the defense has been so much better. And also, what do? So more pressure helps your secondary. They also benched Isaiah Oliver, who was miserable. 87.5% reception percentage allowed. I think he got 35 receptions on 40 targets, worst of any corner. And that includes Damari Mathis in the NFL. He was in the slot. They moved Lenore to slot where he's better suited. And then they moved Ambry Thomas outside. They put him outside on opposite of Tre'Davious Ward. And he's been amazing. Ward and Thomas are both top 15 per PFF. And I think what they could do here, similar to what they did against Seattle, is I think you take and you kind of follow around Brown. Ward, more physical corner. Thomas, more suited to cover, a shiftier, speedier, more slender receiver in Devontae Smith. And there's Lenore can come up helping the run. The Eagles don't have a third person to throw to right now. It's a major problem in their offense. It's just Jalen Hurts is getting a little healthier, but you could still see he doesn't have the same burst. And that's a big problem for this offense. When he's running and at full speed, the offense is at a different level. So this Eagles offense is just, look, I know they're 10-1, but they have been skating by, getting very fortunate in a number of different areas. I think San Fran has had this game circled. They match up really well on the defensive end. Their offense can specifically take advantage of the weaknesses in this Philly defense. I think San Fran is the spot. I think they're going to come out, the great script, get a lead here. And I think the Philly luck finally runs out. Give me the 49ers.
Yeah, I totally agree. Interesting to hear you say, anything under 3, because I'm curious as to what you think about the 3, normal juice, because I'm assuming that, people are going to listen to this later in the week, and it looks like the Niners probably close at -3. They, I talked about this last week. Something like 90% of their games they've won of their wins have been by a touchdown or more, dating back to the start of last year. So how valuable is that 3? I mean, is the 2.5 versus the 3 to you in this spot?
Well, it is just because of where I make it, like to show enough value in the number. And obviously it's the most important number. It's not at a flat 3 yet. I still like the matchup. I like the spot, but 3 is the most important number. And there is still some injury uncertainty, like maybe Goddard, maybe Lane Johnson, both do go. We know Cunningham's going to be out. We know the defense still has some injuries, but I guess if I had to still play it if it was a flat 3 and you wanted to play this game, I would still play the 49ers. But for the time being, you can get up to -120, get that or buy it to that because it's definitely out there. But Yeah, 3, I still would like the 49ers. I just based on where I make it and how important the 3 is. That's why I say, I personally wouldn't have been a big bet for me if it was a flat 3.
And I know some people just kind of using this as a teacher moment, because I think it's an interesting situation. So I'm also assuming, because I've heard people say this to me, sometimes they'll hear us, say, oh, -2.5, and then the line is at 3. And so they'll take the money line. What are your thoughts on that? Right now, the money line is -150. I assume if it goes to a flat 3, it'll be like -160-ish. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it depends on the matchup, the game, the total, the actual price of the money line. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. In this particular case, if it was a flat 3 versus the -160, I would go with the 3.
Yeah, I think that's smart, because again, San Francisco, when they win, they tend to blow teams out. And that's no disrespect to the Eagles. I mean, obviously NFC champions, but we saw what happened against Dallas. What did that close? Like 3.5, and wasn't even close. So
yeah, and the Eagles have this magic going where, like, if it's really close late, like, they're just finding a way to win.
They got the refs.
Yeah,
the refs are paying them back for that Super Bowl. That is the whole season. Just have it.
Fumbles, calls, drops, you name it. Missed field goals, blocked field goals. So, in this case, like, if there was, a really low total, and it was a flat 3, and I like the under, and I expect it to be super low scoring, points at a premium, then I might think about the money line in certain circumstances. But for the most part, prefer the 3 over the money line.
All right, for my second pick, the 3rd overall of the Week 13 Sunday 6-pack, going with the Tennessee Titans +1 at home against the Indianapolis Colts. And I like this matchup for Tennessee. And the reason being is you have 2 quarterbacks who are not good. We know Will Levis is a rookie. It's going to be touch and go with him. But Gardner Minshew is tied for 32nd of 38 passers in passer rating from a clean pocket, according to PFF. And, kind of like Kenny Pickett, it's, you just never quite know what you're going to get as far as the throws, the turnovers, and whatnot. And Tennessee, the difference is Tennessee, their run game trending up, Indianapolis run game trending down for this matchup. And the reason being, Grover Stewart still out, 1 more game suspended for Indianapolis for performance enhancing drugs. He was the number 5 graded run defender out of 134 qualified interior linemen at PFF, and the numbers bear it out. Weeks 1 through 6 with Stewart in the lineup, the Colts were 14th in EPA per rush. Week 7 through 12 with Stewart out, 31st in EPA per rush, 31st in success rate against the run as well. So they're bottom 2 run defense without Grover Stewart. It's been bad. And Tennessee, the tackle situation has been a mess, but these guys, Duncan and then Radunz, I think that's how you pronounce it. Dylan Radunz. Yeah. So, he's kind of a utility guy. Both of these guys, not great pass blockers. Obviously, they wouldn't be down the depth chart, but they both graded out well in run blocking. So in this kind of matchup, you just got 2 wild card quarterbacks. I'm getting the better run offense and the better run matchup here with Tennessee, because on the other side, Jonathan Taylor, doubtful, just had surgery on his thumb. He's going to miss the next couple of weeks. So Zach Moss played really well against Tennessee in that first game. But remember, that Jeffrey Simmons got hurt mid-game. I think Tart got hurt in that game too. But I know Jeffrey Simmons did. But Tennessee, that was a blip. Tennessee, number 2 in run defense, DVOA. And this is what they've been the last couple of years. Jeffrey Simmons, just anchors that line, and they have some horses to stop the run. So two shaky quarterbacks. The better run matchup is with the Titans. Titans are at home, and it's always a small sample when you're talking about home road splits within a given season, but it's been night and day for the Titans at home versus on the road, or in London, I guess, was one of their games. But at home, true home games, because the London game I think counted as a home game, but in their 4 true home games in Nashville, 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread, covering by just under 11 points per game on average, averaging 24.8 points a game, giving up 15, a point differential of just under 10, 345 total yards per game, allowing 288 total yards per game. So a total yardage differential of plus 57. And then when they're on the road, 0-7 straight up, 1-6 against the spread. ATS margin, -8 points on average, averaging just 12 points a game away out of Tennessee, giving up 23.5, -11 point differential, and a yardage differential of over -100, -113. So you're going from plus 57 in yardage at home to -113 on the road. So this team, and it makes sense. I mean, the O-line is not great. So they need kind of those intangibles and that home crowd. But when they do, they're a well-coached team, and they can run the ball. And if they get a lead, it should be good for them. But Vrabel, home dog, 12-7, 63% against the spread, covering by 5.3 points per game. And Vrabel as a home dog or a favorite by less than a field goal, because I realize that this number could jump to Tennessee -1. There's not really much difference between +1 and -1. So don't think that's like a massive jump, but it could go that direction. Mike Vrabel is a home dog or a favorite by less than a field goal, 15-9, 63% against the spread, covering by an average of 3.7 points per game. So I think Tennessee should win this one. Thought they should have won the one in Indianapolis, but that was the one where they planned for Richardson, and then Minshew came in, and then Simmons got hurt, and Moss busted off a bunch of explosives. So a lot of things went wrong. They lost by 1 score. I think they get it done here. Give me the Titans +1 at home against the Colts.
I have no feel on this one, so I'll try to root you in. Although a Colts loss here would really help the Bills, and we talked about this on Happy Hour. If you check that out on YouTube, and if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button, appreciate it. But I think this is the time to buy a Bills. If you want to take a flyer on the Bills, this is the time. I think they're going to go on a run. They got to climb over some teams, and they have a hard schedule. But a Colts loss here would really help them, because the Colts also then play the Texans. They play the Steelers in a couple weeks. A lot of these teams do get a break because they're playing the Bengals, which is just a killer because the Bengals have lost Burrow. But I think I might take a flyer on the Bills, but we'll talk about that next week when I don't think the price will change that drastically, but this would help that. By the way, before I get to my second pick, I don't think you mentioned it. Maybe I missed it. Do you like the 49ers?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the 49ers. I think I'm kind of pissed at the number. I missed the number. I think Sunday afternoon it was like what, +1, +2 even. So
yeah, I got even money.
Yeah,
just even money line.
I slept on that, but yeah, I mean it's not only do I like the 49ers, but really it's about fading this Eagle team that, listen, they've been great. More power, more props to them. But they also have been lucky, and it's just profitable to fade those kind of teams. But where are you going for your second?
All right, for my second pick in the 4th overall, the Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Houston Texans -3.5 at home against the Denver Broncos. We both love Stroud. Tank Dell didn't practice today, but he's going to be good to go. I think they might have their entire receiving core back this week. Noah Brown, I think maybe that timetable-wise, this is usually when he should come back. We'll see.
They haven't had all top four together since week 1, I believe. So it's been
But this is mainly a complete sell of Denver. I was on the Denver bandwagon, leading the bandwagon about the defensive improvements. Get McMillan in the slot. You remove Mathis. You put in Morrow. They got guys like Browning and Jones back healthy. D definitely was not historically bad. The D is still bad. The Denver's won 5 straight, and everyone's saying playoffs. We're all about Russell Wilson and this resurgence. Okay. But first of all, of those 5 games, 3 have come by a combined 5 points. The other 2 were against the Browns, who lost every starter in that game, and then we're down to PJ Walker, and it was a mess. And then they played Mahomes with the flu. In those 5 games, they beat the Chiefs, Packers, Bills, Vikings, and Browns. Those teams went 7 of 16, scoring touchdowns in the red zone, 8 of 15 and 4 on the fourth down. Most importantly, 16 turnovers to only 2 for the Broncos. 5-game winning streak plus 14 turnover margin. 44 of their 117 points during their 5-game winning streak have come directly off of turnovers. That's 38%. Still only averaging 23 points per game. Without the turnovers, they're averaging 14 points per game. They've forced 14 fumbles on the season. They've recovered 12. No other team's recovered more than 9. I mean, and if you look, since the 5-game winning streak started in week 7, Broncos 7th in EPA per play on D. Guess what? EPA very heavily it's heavily skewed by turnovers. If you remove turnovers, 25th. Success rate, 25th. It's literally just been turnover luck for 5 games straight. Meanwhile, over that same stretch, Texans D, 16th in EPA per play. If you remove turnovers, 6th in success rate, 2nd versus the rush, which is huge because that's been the engine of this entire, Broncos offense. They have a good script, and then it's, hey, let's run it and then give Russ easy throws. How about the offenses since week 7, if we remove turnovers? EPA per play, Broncos, 23rd. Texans, 5th. Success rate, Broncos, 26th. Texans, 12th. I mean, this Broncos team is still a bottom 3rd team in the NFL, offense and defense. They've just been getting every bounce possible for 5 games. Peak of the market here. I think we mentioned this game last week. This is the spot to sell Denver if they beat Cleveland. Broncos D, by the way, 11th highest blitz rate, and they get no pressure. 4th lowest pressure rate. Well, Stroud's been elite when he's been kept clean. Arguably the best quarterback in the NFL this year, and he's been good versus the blitz. A little shaky when you can get pressure on him. Still as a young quarterback without blitzing. Broncos can't do that. So this is just a great matchup for the Texans. Both sides of the ball. Complete sell high at this Denver team. Plus 14 in turnovers in the past 5 games. And they still won 3 by a combined 5 points. I think there's blowout risk here. Love the Texans here. We're laying the 3.5.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It's tough to get a feel for the Broncos. I feel like I guess you kind of broke it down. They're just getting so lucky off turnovers. That's it. That's all don't know how. Yeah, it feels like this is very unsustainable, and the bottom should just fall out. It should have already fallen out. But they got a win against the Chiefs. They're on this roll. So yeah, I don't hate it. And this Texan team, I mean, really, I feel like the thing about Houston is they're still leaving meat on the bone. I mean, with the kicker issues, I feel like there's a drive that just ends in a stupid penalty each week. I mean, for as good as Stroud and this Texan offense has been, they should have had more than 19 against Atlanta. They should have had more than 21 against Jacksonville. So good spot for
Houston. They have some
to
positive
get
regression coming.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's that the eye test looks better than the end results, and obviously they've surprised a lot of people. But this team Texans could be a legit, just like how Burrow ascended with the Bengals.
Yeah, they could be the sleeper. Yeah, I think there's only 7 teams that could win the Super Bowl. The one that could emerge as the sleeper because of the quarterback is the Texans. Yeah. And the only thing that scares me, and hopefully they just go for 4th downs, is so I said this for weeks. I was like, you can't have Matt Amendola as your kicker. I know that their kicker got hurt. They cut him. They re-signed him to the practice squad today. They worked out Brett Maher today. So
God, not her.
Yeah.
Naher might be even worse. Oh.
I know. So hopefully that doesn't burn us, because we've been burned by 2 bets on this. Texans last week, Amendola comes up an inch short, and then they don't have a kicker to kick an extra point. But I think there's a chance Texans by 14 plus.
Yeah, I mean, it's about time they blow somebody out. They've been having all these close games,
and the Broncos that will have like a negative, -3 turnover margin.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos lost by 10 to the Jets in Denver, so downside. Okay, my third pick, the 5th overall of the Week 13 Sunday 6-pack. For the first time all season, I said I wasn't going to bet on Frank Reich. He's gone. Carolina plus 5.5 at Tampa Bay. So, number one, I don't think you're going to get a massive boost here from the change in coaches, because you did have Thomas Brown calling plays before, and it didn't really seem to do anything. But at the same time, we saw this Carolina team, and there are some players. I know they got rid of a lot of people, but there are a bunch of guys that were on this team last year that are still there. And we saw this team kind of perk up from the coaching change last year. I think you could see something like that this year as well. Carolina's defense is starting to come together under Evero, who I think we both respect. Weeks 1 through 7 before through the bye, allowing 31 points a game, 342 yards. They ranked 31st in success rate since the bye, from 31 points allowed to 21, from 342 yards per game allowed to 259, and the success rate 18th. And if you remove turnovers, 16th in success rate and 10th in EPA per play. So they haven't been, just kind of benefiting from turnovers. If anything, the other team have. But I'm just hoping that offensively, you got rid of Reich, who I think the game passed by, and then you got rid of a couple of his assistants. You got rid of the quarterback coach McCown and Deuce Staley, who probably was the reason they kept feeding Miles Sanders when he's averaging like 1.2 yards a carry. It's clear to anyone to see Chuba Hubbard is the better back. But I mean, shouts to Deuce, because I cleared my Chuba under last week by, I think, 1.5 yards, because Miles Sanders kept checking back in the game, even though Chuba was out playing him and running circles around him. But I think, just kind of getting better, better rotation in the backfield. I think with Blackshear active, I think, getting Thielen back involved, he's been quiet. And this is a defense in Tampa Bay that's really been regressing. They got a lot of guys banged up, even if they end up playing, both corners, Davis
the corners
and
are
Dean.
Playing so bad.
They're definitely hurt, and they're all in the injury report. So this is one of them. They'll probably play. You also have Lavonte David questionable with a groin, Devin White questionable with a foot. So you have Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, Lavonte David, and Devin White. Davis and Dean have ankles. That's 4 of your top defensive players, all with lower leg, with leg injuries. That probably explains part of the reason why this defense has really been struggling. So you're talking about a defense that's struggling, and Baker Mayfield favored by more than a field goal, with Frank Reich out of the picture, and potentially some new wrinkles here. I mean, there's nowhere to go, nowhere to go but up for this Carolina offense. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you like what could or couldn't happen, or what they've been bad at, what can improve. Everything's been bad. It can only go up. This is the time to buy Carolina. This is the time to. I mean, the Bucs. Remember how what we thought of the Bucs coming into the year? They were right there. A lot of people thought they'd be worse than Carolina. This team has lost, 5 of the last 6 games after starting hot. Baker Mayfield's a 5.5-point favorite. He's 13-24, 35% against the spread as a favorite in his career, failing to cover by an average of a field goal per game in those spots. Todd Bowles as a favorite by a field goal or more, 6-13, 32% in his career, failing to cover by just over 4.5 points per game on average. And I talk about this is kind of the time to buy Carolina. Road underdogs with 1 or fewer wins in their 8th through 12th game, 63, 30, and 5, 68% against the spread over the last 2 decades, covering by 3.6 points per game. So I like the spot here for Carolina. It's a fade of the Bucks. Mayfield is a favorite. And this Bucks defense has been playing bad enough that if Carolina is ever going to perk up with some of these old guard out of the building, it might be this game. And I think their defense can do enough to keep them in there. Even if they only score 13, I think they can hold the Bucks to 16 and get the cover. So give me the Panthers for the first time all year, plus 5.5 at Tampa.
Yeah, since week 7, Tampa 29th. Tampa D 29th in EPA per play. They are leaking oil. And yeah, I generally don't think that there can be, historically, if you look, there is a slight bump when a coach is fired that first week. And if there's a reason to believe, if there's like low hanging fruit, I think there can be some significant changes. And the front office, Bryce Young's obviously been bad. He's small. Can't really see downfield. He just looks overwhelmed. The front office went to Reich and said they need to incorporate more RPOs into his game plan, which suits Bryce Young well. And he's had a lot of success doing that in the past. Reich said, no, it doesn't fit his system. So I assume you're going to see a lot more RPOs. And Reich's a stubborn guy and wouldn't just kept trying to fit Young, say Young is a square peg into Reich's circle, into his hole. That came out weird, but you know what I'm trying to say. And so you need to make some adjustments, man. Help them out. So I think that you'll see a game plan that's more conducive to the skill set and what Bryce Young is comfortable doing. And there's also the element of surprise, right? So you'll have these new wrinkles that Tampa is not ready for. And you didn't even mention, it might not be Baker Mayfield. Could be Trask, who's horrendous. Mayfield hurt his ankle in the game last week, did come back, but couldn't put any weight on it after the game, said it was all adrenaline. And ankles are tricky. He doesn't have adrenaline going. So he's definitely not 100%. So we'll see how that progresses throughout the week, but there's definitely some injury risks that could favor the Panthers as well. So I'm on this also, so I like it. For my third pick in the 6th overall, the Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Green Bay Packers plus 6 against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday night. Number one, this is a great spot. Packers extended rest here, getting healthier, especially on the defensive end. Should get some guys back. A lot of guys in their secondary are practicing. Chiefs, meanwhile, coming off a division win. Bills on deck, traveling, into the cold, non-conference game, kind of a sleepy spot. Packers in a must win. That win over the Lions, huge, out a lot of momentum. You want to really get back in the playoff picture, you got to win this game. They've also had 4 losses by a combined 10 points. Been one of the unluckiest teams in the NFL. And Jordan Love is playing his best football of the season. And I think he's a little undervalued in the market. And the Chiefs' offense just doesn't look right. There's some flashes here and there, but man, they go through these long droughts and it's all on the receivers. Just so many drops and just no rhythm, and they can't figure out who to play. Adjusted EPA per play among all quarterbacks since week 7, which was after the Packers bye, when you've started to see flashes from Love, and his numbers are even better since week 9. But let's take week 7 for a bigger sample size. Adjusted EPA per play among quarterbacks, Love, 9th, Mahomes, 10th. Adjusted completion percentage, the same. Love, 2 more air yards than Mahomes. This Chiefs team, look, their defense is good, but the Packers offensive line can handle their front. And that's a lot of what is driving this Chiefs defensive resurgence. Spagnuolo's great. Their corners are really good, but they're also getting a lot of pressure, getting a lot of sacks. Love's playing very confidently right now. I think they'll be able to run a little bit. I think they'll hit some explosives, and this is when you want to fade Mahomes. Favorite over a field goal, and that offense I don't really trust them to win by a ton of margin right now. Like what I'm seeing from the Packers of late. Give me Green Bay and the 6 points at home in a great spot.
Yeah, Jordan Love is playing a lot better. And it kind of helps the better he plays, because he's one of those quarterbacks that really struggles when he gets behind in games. I made the mistake of betting on him to throw a pick on Thanksgiving because that was their biggest spread of the year. They hadn't been plus more than 3.5. All 10 of Love's picks this year have come when trailing, so it's, he kind of throws it up. He gets, and Christian Watson, sometimes he puts the ball in harm's way, but Watson's starting to wake up. Jaden Reed, I mean those young receivers are really coming into their own. It's a shame Musgrave went down with the injury, but that's given a chance for Tucker Kraft, to another day 2 pick, I believe it was. So yeah, this is a time of year when if the Packers are going to make some noise, this is when you would expect it, because we both talked about they had everyone was young. Everyone was first and second year on the skill position. So you expect, some rough patches and some growing pains. Yeah, growing pains. Exactly. So now you're starting to see Jordan Love a lot more efficient, more accurate, and the receivers are helping him out too, making plays on the ball and making plays after the catch. So,
and confidence with a young core like that goes such a long way.
And I think, interestingly enough, I think they have something with Dylan if they just use him more as a receiver. He's not the type of guy you would expect to be a good receiver, but just from watching him play, he looks a lot crisper, quicker, and just more efficient when he's catching the football than when he's running the football. So, I think that's another positive. At least they have some way to use him, because he's averaging he's averaging 9.7 yards of reception this year. It's the 3rd time in 4 years that he's averaging over 9 yards a catch. Running backs usually average around 7.5. Yeah,
he's very crafty in the receiving game.
Yep. So, if you could just avoid just slamming him into a wall, and I know you don't really have many other options, especially if Jones can't go, but the Chiefs, you could do some things with the backs, in space. So I think this Packers offense is starting to come together. Just hope their defense and Joe Barry can hold up here, because don't let Isaiah Pacheco run for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns on you. That's the biggest worry. But 6 points in Lambeau for this Chiefs team that just can't separate, because it's been a struggle. I don't know why they don't play Rashee Rice more than 50-60% of the snaps. Every week I look, he's I think as high as 68% of the routes this year. That needs to change. Maybe it will this week, but that is going.
Yeah, and also they'll have. I think Stokes, Savage, and Alexander should all be back in the secondary this week. DeGuara also practicing, but their secondary is dealing with a lot of injuries. So they should be much healthier.
Losing Rasul was not ideal, obviously, but if Jair is in there, that makes up for a lot. All right, so let's see. What do we got here? Quarterback-wise, you got Purdy, Stroud, and Love. Not bad. I got Kyler, Will Levis, and Bryce Young. So I got the top. I got some draft picks that really haven't lived up to the hype, and you got the the emerging all-stars. So you definitely got me
the
on
only
quarterbacks.
2 quarterbacks who have been drafted in the past 3 years that have worked out so far.
Right, exactly.
There's been so many bad quarterback draft choices over the last 3 years.
Yeah. When was Tim Boyle drafted? That was like 5 years ago, right? Was he even drafted?
There's no way.
So bad. He was so bad in school.
He 2018. Let's see. Was he drafted? I cannot.
Nah, he wasn't. He wasn't drafted.
Yeah, undrafted. Yeah, because he was at UConn, couldn't cut it there. 1 touchdown, 14 picks, then went FCS. And then I don't know how, let's see. I don't know how, like, he must have just, I don't know how he made his way.
Clipboard, Aaron Rodgers clipboard. That's literally how.
Yeah, but how did that start? That's what I need to, he needs to write a book.
I mean, the Packers always have, like, they had who was it? Ben Kurt, JT O'Sullivan. I think they had, I feel like the Packers always have those guys that, like, aren't great quarterbacks, but they're great, like, mentally kind of guys. I'm assuming that's what Broyle brings to the table, because it's definitely not any skill. But I digress.
Do you remember the Colts long-term backup for Manning? Can you remember his name?
Oh, wait, give me what? Curtis Painter. Is that it?
Wait,
Sorgi?
Yep.
Sorgi?
Yep. Jim Sorgi.
Yeah. It was like back in the day there used to be 3 quarterbacks, and I remember it was like Jason Garrett and Wade Wilson were always backing up Troy Aikman. I was always like, who are these guys? Like, just had no idea. Now you generally you see less of that because teams keeping 2 quarterbacks, but yeah, there's some of these quarterbacks that really should not be seeing the field.
Yeah, Painter was his backup later in his Colts career. And then they also signed very late, I think late in his Colts career. Kerry Collins they brought on when he was.
I feel like the Colts had a game or 2 of Josh Freeman in there, mixed in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, we're rambling now.
Yeah, man. Stuck. You have the Niners -2.5, Texans -3.5, Packers +6. I have the Cardinals +5.5, Titans +1, and the Panthers +5.5. That's going to do it for our Week 13 Sunday 6-pack. Now it's time for our Week 13 Coaches Pep Talk.
Super Bowl dreams that glowed in the summer sunshine flicker and fade in the autumn shadows. And hopes that were high in the heat of September can wilt and die in the chill of November. November can be cold and gray. November can be surly, with bitter rain upon the world and winter coming early. Do you fear the force of the wind, the slash of the rain? Go face them and fight them. Be savage again. The palms of your hands will thicken, the skin of your cheek will tan. You'll grow ragged and weary and wet, but you must do the best you can.
This week's Coach's Pep Talk comes to us from the greatest voice in NFL history, my favorite voice. I could listen to this guy all day. John Facenda, nicknamed the Voice of God. And we're going to dedicate this to the 49ers, Texans, Packers, Cardinals, Titans, and Carolina Panthers. All of our 6-pack teams, all of them. Be savage again. Get it done for us. Still looking for that first 6-0 week of the year. But, man, this is, I mean, I could just listen to this guy, and I have listened to this guy all day. This was who I heard growing up when growing up in the 90s, watching the NFL films of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I didn't even know there were other narrators for a while. I mean, there's no one ever better to do it, in my opinion. So, John Facenda, Voice of God, love it. I think we might just need to do him Coach's Pep Talks for the rest of the year, because this is it just gets me in the mood for some football, man. All right, let's go to our favorite total of the week. We are 13-11 on totals this year so far, so could be a little better. But I went first for the 6-pack. You're up first for the total stuff. Where are you going?
Well, first I'm gonna ask you a trivia question. We were talking about the Texans. So if we're talking who's gonna get all pro, I don't know if Dell has the numbers right now, because Tyreek's gonna get it, right?
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb's gonna get it.
And probably Keenan Allen or AJ Brown.
Allen's going to have like 150 catches. So,
yeah.
And then maybe AJ Brown.
Yeah.
So he can't get it now, but like he's going to be an all-pro soon. But here's my trivia question for you. Over the last 30 years, only 2 rookies have made the all-pro or all-pro as a rookie wide receiver. Can you name one?
Past 30 years.
That's 30 years, 2 receivers.
I would go Randy Moss and Odell Beckham.
Randy Moss is correct.
Okay.
The other was recent.
Wait, give me one more guess. Give me one.
Was in the last 5 years.
Last 5 years. Okay, let me think about this.
Tyreek made it, but as a returner.
Okay, yeah. I remember his receiving numbers were good, but not amazing. Yeah. Justin Jefferson?
Yep. That's it.
2 Vikings.
Jefferson and Moss. The only 2. Tyler Lockett also made it as a returner.
Yeah. He didn't break out till a little bit later as a receiver.
The oddest all-pro rookie over the last 20 since 2000, I think 22 or 23 rookies. The weirdest one, which is just an amazing trivia question if it ever comes up, Blair Walsh. As a kicker, as a rookie.
Oh man, I guess it went downhill from there because I remember I don't really remember anything about him except that missed extra point against
when the Vikings announcer went just ballistic.
I feel like there's been what was he? Was it the Viking? Was the Nate? No, yeah, the Nate Poole was the Cardinals. No, who was the Cardinals guy that knocked the Vikings out of the playoffs? Was that Nate Poole, or am I thinking was Nate Poole the Vikings guy that knocked somebody out, that knocked the Saints out? I'm trying to remember.
At the last play, it was the Cardinals knocked out the Vikings. It was Josh McCown.
And Nate Poole.
Nate Poole. Yeah. 2002, 3, and Paul Allen went ballistic there too.
Yeah,
he has great. He has amazing clips of him just losing his mind. Yeah, that game was like 19-18 final score, if I recall.
December 28th, 2003, 18-17, Cardinals won after losing.
The last play of the game, right? It was
7 game. They were on a 7-game losing streak coming in, and Nate Poole went 5 for 86 and a touch, and that touch was on the last play of the game to knock him out. All right.
It was like a 4th and 40 or something.
It wasn't 40, but it was like 20 something. Yeah. It was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it was like a heave. It was like 4th and.
Let's see. I got the box score right here. It was 4th and 25 with 4 seconds to go. And it wasn't even goal. It was 4th and 25 at the Minnesota 28 with 4 seconds left. So one play, Josh McCown pass complete to Nate Poole for 28 yards, touchdown. And then there was a replay challenge, and it was upheld. And then they missed the 2-point conversion, but it didn't matter. I don't know why they had to go for 2 there. They don't do that anymore. Actually, no, I guess they would. End of regulation, overtime. They don't make you go there.
Yeah. They
didn't have the defense couldn't get 2 points yet for returning, so it didn't matter, I guess.
Yeah.
But interesting. They went for 2, so it could have been a 2017. But all right, we're getting off track.
Are you sure they went for 2?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. I got the.
I mean, they could have just kneeled it. They could have just kneeled it.
It's not. It says Pro Football Reference 2-point attempt conversion fails.
Yeah, but if you kneel it there, that's the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. The point is, they had there was a
they probably just didn't want to risk kicking it. They probably just snapped it and kneeled it and got out. Anyway, all right, major tangent. My favorite total of the week. I'm going to go Pittsburgh, Arizona over 41. I liked some of the things that I faded Pittsburgh last week. Was expecting a little more from from Jake Browning. Did not get it. Even if you look at his yards, 70 of those yards were tipped
deflections.
Catches. Yeah, like it was uglier than the final box score, which is a terrible bet. Credit to Steelers. Like I said, Steelers 400 yards of offense. The last time I did that was when Canada was gone, and I said to myself, look, Pickett is terrible, and he is, but he refused to throw in between the hashes. He actually was. Freiermuth being back. But mainly the Cardinals defense is something special. I mean, they don't do anything right. Like they don't do anything well. Their safeties are okay. That's it.
Yeah.
Marco Wilson is dreadful. So the Cardinals can't stop anybody. And so, the Steelers thrown over the middle of the field, they should be able to run the ball. And I've said it before. I think that the Steelers defense is overrated, especially on the back end, especially in coverage. And this is where Kyler Murray's legs are going to come into play. He can extend plays and find receivers downfield. And, Gaddon's been playing like really aggressive, which I like. He'll go for 2, he'll go for 4th downs. And he's basically just saying like, we know we're overmatched, so we're not going to play completely conservative, which I like for an over. He's not going to say like, oh, we're the worst team, let's punt on 4th and 2 from the 50. He's going to go for it. He's going to go for 2 sometimes. And I think this total is a little bit too low because I think the Steelers move the ball, and I think the Cardinals actually have success moving the ball. I think this game ends up like, let's call it 24-20.
Yeah, I can see that. If Deontay Johnson doesn't just let go of touchdowns and walk away from fumbles and things, Steelers might be
the Steelers could also just hand it off all game and run wild. Like the Cardinals defense is at that 32nd in EPA per play, 31st EPA play, 30-second success rate. It's dreadful. And Kyler's legs will be big here, evading the rush and take advantage of a Steelers secondary linebacker unit that has major weaknesses in coverage, which we've seen a number of times this year when they actually face a competent quarterback. Also, Steelers been getting so lucky in turnover department on defense, so there's some regression coming there. A lot of drives have been stopped by turnovers, and so there's some regression coming there. And I think the Cardinals can get to 20 plus here, and that should do it. So give me the Cardinals Steelers over 41.
Yeah, and you also have the Kyler Murray scrambling overcorrection coming, because he scrambled for that touchdown on the first drive and then didn't run again the whole game. Yeah, it's like that Ram team and just always in the heads of the Cardinals. Both sides
Circle
of the ball.
Life in the NFC West.
Perfect game plays. That might have been, that's right up there with your Lions. No, Ravens bet against the Lions, I think it was, with like the least sweaty bets that we've had on this pod all year. It was just, the Rams didn't even get stopped. It was just, I think they missed a field goal. But the Cardinals also got some weird luck too. Like they got a field goal taken off right before the half because of, I forget what it was. Like I think it was like a offside on the offense or some weird.
Yeah.
And then
they missed it.
So and then they missed another one. So they should have had more points as well. But
the Cardinals went up 8-7. They went for 2, and you sweat for like 10 minutes, and the Rams scored, and then they scored again, and then it was over. So there was like a 5-minute sweat there.
And the Rams didn't really do it with Nakua or Kupp either. It was just, the Rams just owned the car. Like I think the Cardinals defense is terrible. But I think the Rams just have a special talent of making them look, because even that first game, it was like 26-9. That was really when the wheels started coming off the Cardinals, and it was kind of the beginning of the end for Dobbs too. But I digress. Don't hate it at all. Just hoping my Cardinals get there for the cover. I'm going Patriots Chargers under 41 for my total. Listen, the Patriots still don't have a quarterback. Guess Zappy is taking first team reps this week. He's really been struggling at throwing, and just the same as Mac Jones, but
they just throw it right to the defense.
It's got to be something mental with Mac Jones. I mean, there's no way. It's like every like third or fourth play in like opponent territory, like it's just straight to the defense. I don't know what's going on with him, but Zappy has been one of the least accurate quarterbacks in the short range, 0 to 9 yards, those are gimmies in the NFL, but not for Zappy. This season, he ranks last of 51 quarterbacks in accuracy over the short range. And last year he was 52nd of 68. So near the bottom of the league.
He's too small. Basically.
Yeah, he's too small. And then, last year with, who is it? Matt Patricia, I guess. You did see at least they kind of let Zappy be a little bit more of a, just throw some up downfield. But when he came in for Mac Jones in that last game, it was just screen after screen. His average up the target was 2.3. So at this point, I feel like the Patriots, they feel like their offense is broken. Your best receivers in the concussion protocol, Pop Douglas. So you might see a 80% plus of Devontae Parker, which is just negative in terms of scoring points. And on the other side, this Charger team, you can always count on the Chargers to squander one or two scoring opportunities that they probably should make. And it's still, neither team I think is going to be able to run very well. So you can see some second and long, third and longs. Not great for the Patriots. Okay for the Chargers, but the Chargers really aren't
not the same offense without Mike Williams.
It's not. And, maybe they get Palmer back this week, but Guyton's been bad. Quentin Johnson's been terrible. And Eckler hasn't been as good. And a lot of that is Will Clapp.
Slow.
Yeah, Eckler looks slow. And, last year, Eckler asked for a reduction in workload. And at the time, I thought that was really odd because he's coming off those 2 monster years. But, it's, maybe he kind of knows his own body, and it's because he doesn't look the same. But also, really, I mean, the O-line is killing the Chargers. Will Clapp at center. And, losing a great center, underrated knock to an offense. Corey Linsley, one of the better centers in the league. Yeah. Since he went out, I mean, Herbert's getting pressured at all the wrong times. Not even just the pressure, it's when it's happening. It always seems to happen at the worst times. But either way, point being, the Chargers shouldn't be stressed to get in a shootout here. This should play out more like the Jets game when it was 27-6, and I guess the Jets had a chance to make it 27-13 near the end. So like the 41 here, down to 40, but I think, still a Belichick defense against a Charger offense that's just way undermanned, and maybe the Chargers just, actually try to, play it a little bit smarter in this game, because this is a game they should win. They haven't had too many of those. So either way, I'm seeing like a 23-12 Chargers win in this spot. I don't think either team runs up the score. So Patriots, Chargers under 41.
Like it.
All right. So Steelers, Cards over 41, Pats, Chargers under 41. Now it's time for our favorite teaser of the week. So quickly, for all those unfamiliar with teasers, it's when you get an added allotment of points to parlay with 2 or more spread bets. The standard is a 2-team 6-point teaser, which means a 2.5-point underdog becomes an 8.5-point underdog, and an 8.5-point favorite would become a 2.5-point favorite. For instance, Stuck, I know you have a lot of great content out. Break it down, the approach, what numbers you're trying to tease through. The 3 and the 7 is the TLDR of it. But anyone who wants to dive in depth with these things, be sure to Google Stucky teasers, and you'll find all the content. Stuck is 9-3 this year on the pod on teasers. So good shit, Stuck. I'm 8-4. So together 17-7. So profitable teaser year for us here on the pod. Let's try to keep it rolling. Where are you going?
I'm going to include a rare Monday nighter. I know we always cover just Sunday games, but Jags are one of my favorite teaser pieces of the weekend. Low total. I think the total's down to 38. You're crossing the 7 and the 3. That is just the ideal teaser piece. Jake Browning is just not the guy. And, I mean, this Bengals defense is a mess. Dead last in explosiveness loud. Their corners, their whole secondary is a mess right now. They're giving up explosive runs. Yeah, I mean, It's bad. So I can't see Jake Browning and this Bengals team going into Jacksonville and getting a win. So tease Jacksonville down to 2.5, and reluctantly, I'm teasing Tim Boyle up to 8.5 through the 3 and 7. This total, I made 32. I don't know what is it.
34.
34. It's that, and that's no weather adjustment. Usually totals. I can't remember the last time I made a total that low when it wasn't like in Cleveland with like 30-mile-an-hour winds. So yeah, obviously points going to be at a premium here. Can the Jets get the 10? I think so, which might be enough. And it's Ritter, who just loves to turn the ball over. He wants to get.
Oh my God! Yeah, shout out to my boy Chris. We just call it Rittering at this point. Like we just text each other because it's just without fail. They'll get in the red zone. They'll be like this close to scoring a touchdown. Like all you gotta do, just hit the open receiver, hold the ball across the goal, whatever it be, turnover. Like it's clockwork.
So he'll probably have a couple turnovers here against this Jets D. Yeah, so I have to do it. Crossing 3 and 7, totals 34. I make it 32. So Jets and Jags.
I actually like that one. I'll have more on the Jets Falcons game in the next section, but for mine, I'll go with the Chargers down to a pick and the Titans up to 7 to give us some diversity here. I already talked about the Titans and the Chargers, kind of briefly touched on them, but this is a game they should win. That's never safe with them, but this Patriot offense just not in a good spot. I don't think when you have two quarterbacks taking reps, you have none. Zappy kind of overstayed his welcome. I think, kind of surprised some people first couple of games last year. That was your boy. I know you got a couple covers out of him, but ever since then, watching him in the preseason this year, watching him in the regular season this year, just expiration date. Kind of like, who was it that you kept fading? Cooper Rush, I think it was, had that hot start, and it was like, all right, back. That's the thing with back. I mean, you're seeing it with Josh Dobbs too. Like these fringe, quarterbacks that can make a couple of good starts. More often than not, there tends to be an expiration date. So
it's the reason they're backup.
Right. So, and Mac Jones probably should have been a backup the whole time. So whoever we get a quarterback, you're going against Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler. That should be enough. I mean, even on defense, the Patriots are a little banged up. Still have a good game plan but I one of the few spots, and maybe I'll regret it, but one of the few spots I trust the Chargers to get it done. So Chargers from 6-0, Titans from 1-7, and then you got the Jags from 8-2, 8.5 to 2.5, and the Jets from 2.5 to 8.5. We'll get into our underdog money line parlay in a sec, but as a reminder, the Action Network podcast is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION, ACTION, when signing up to get $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Underdog, Moneyline, Parlay. We are 9-15 on the year, but that's mostly you. You're 6-6. I'm 3-9. So your world, I'm just living in it. when it comes to these money line dogs. Had the Bills just ripped away from me in overtime, of course, because once the Bills game goes to overtime, it's over. Like even if they,
I'm just happy that the Bills won the toss. Otherwise, that would have been.
Oh my God,
I would have lost
bro.
Plus 3.5.
But like the Gabe Davis, where Josh Allen just and that's Gabe. Like it's big game Gabe. Like that was supposed to be the first overtime win. I guess they're saving it for the eventual Super Bowl that we gotta bet on now. At 40-1. But where are you going for your moneyline dog this week?
Let's go with the Saints. I don't know who's going to be at wide receiver. They could be down to my Kentucky boy, Lynn Bowden, who I love. Lynn Bowden's my boy. He's good whenever he gets in there. Keith Kirkwood.
And A.T. Perry.
An A.T. Perry, Wake Forest kid. But I tend to think that whenever there's like cluster wide receiver injuries for one game, the market tends to overreact. These guys are still professionals at receiver that can work all week with the first team. And last I checked, the Detroit defense is a dumpster fire. Since week 7, dead last CPA per play. It has been the worst defense in the NFL. And last I checked, Jared Goff is still a pumpkin and will throw games away. So I think this line's just too high. I can't get to this number in any world, no matter how much I account for the New Orleans injury. So I played the Saints +4. And this is kind of when you want to bet Carr anyway as a dog. So I think the line's too high. So we'll take them as a moneyline dog here. I think the market's overreacted to the Saints injuries.
Yeah, the number's a little high. I mean, I'll root for you. I'm not really. I don't want to back Derek Carr and Dennis Allen at all at this point, but I agree. I think Detroit's kind of showing their colors. It's like the reverse of last year. Last year, the defense started terrible, and then got decent down the stretch, and then this year it was decent, and then
I've been on to this Detroit defense.
Yeah, no, you've called it out from jump.
I think they're a bottom 5D in the league. They had the Chiefs early without Kelsey in the first game of the year. They got roasted by Seattle. Then they played Atlanta, Green Bay, Carolina, and Tampa Bay. And then everyone went bananas. And then since then, they've just been dog shit. I think the Saints win this game.
They have a couple of I like Branch, obviously Hutchinson, but
Anzalone's playing well. He's going to be out. He's out this week. I believe.
Sutton hasn't been good coming over from where is he? Pittsburgh. Last year.
That was their big signing. They can't cover anybody. I don't do fantasy, but Lynn Bowden, wide receiver 1 this week. Is that what you said?
Okay. Yeah. I like it. I might have to get him in some milli make. I was thinking more Perry because he got more snaps, but Bowden does have some juice, so wouldn't surprise. But this actually might be good for the Saints because
does wide receiver 1 mean he's the best receiver of the day?
So wide receiver, so that would be overall wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 1 just means he puts up like top 12 numbers. So like wide receiver 1, yeah. Okay. But like if you say the wide receiver 1, that means like Justin Jefferson. Like
I'm not going that far.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, like I was gonna say, I think to your bet, like this might even be good for Carr because that scheme, it's just so weird where it's like, or maybe it's Carr just coming off his reads, but it's like downfield, low percentage throw on the sideline or check down. Like there's nothing in between. So this actually, maybe forces them to, get the tight ends worked in more, involve Taysom Hill like as a focal point, which every time they do and it works out, they go away from it again and then they lose. So I think you're going to see a big Taysom Hill game. Your boy Lynn Bowden, who you mentioned, and Alvin Kamara will catch, probably 15 passes or so.
I like when there's like a cluster of, for some reason, I just always have when there's a cluster wide receiver injuries. It just seems like for one game, everyone else steps up. If it's like offensive line, there's not much you can really do. And if it's your quarterback, if it's the secondary, usually it's a huge drop off. But for one game, I think wide receivers can usually be okay.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I mean, these are three of the better wide receivers, like better trios. But like I said, yeah, I think part of the reason it creates value is because for a team like this, it just forces them to scheme different. And the Saints actually have been good at trick plays and things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they spring Bowden. They'll get some single coverage, obviously, now with these, no-name receivers, assuming Olave and Shaheed miss. So, yeah, don't hate it. I mean, don't love it because, again, Derek Carr, Dennis Allen. But I agree at, 4 points and plus 165 is selling the Saints a little bit short. So hopefully it's not like a Lions indoor smash spot, bounce back. But yeah, Goff has been bad for a couple weeks straight now, and the defense has been bad for a couple months now. So let's parlay that with the New York Jets plus 125 at home against the Atlanta Falcons. Uncertainty. That's really what we're looking for here. And I don't have enough certainty to take the Jets on the spread. And honestly, I think number one, because there's no positive sample of Tim Boyle yet. There's nothing to hang. I mean, I guess he covered. I was on him when he covered that game back in Detroit, but there's nothing to point to. But what I always like to, and we've had a lot of these games this year where don't just focus on, the negative of, a team, and you should be able to figure out which bets to avoid. And so you do have to look at the negatives for each bet you're thinking about. But in this situation, it's the Jets are terrible. They have a bad quarterback and a bad offense, but the Jets also have an elite defense. The Falcons have a bottom 5 defense by most metrics, bottom 8 at best. And Falcons also have a bad quarterback and an offense that kind of hit or miss. So, you're going to make them, pretty one-dimensional here. Take London completely out of the game with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. Probably could do something with the cornerbacks on Pitts too if you really wanted to. So, what you're going to get from the Falcons. And this is a Desmond Ridder disaster spot. And we know Ridder has played a lot better at home than on the road. So if the Jets are ever going to break this streak, this could be the time. You might even see Trevor Siemian here, which I think would be a upgrade on Boyle. So you have some kind of
more uncertainty.
Right, exactly. Sure. Uncertainty, and Desmond is good for a couple of Ridders, especially on the road. So give me the Jets plus 125. Parlay those together, you get just under 5-1 odds plus 496. So juicy little parlay there with two teams with very winnable games, even though it may not seem like it, and both teams at home as well. So wouldn't be surprised if this one were to hit. Finally, we've got the best of the rest, games we haven't covered in any other segment, but are still, as they say, meaningful to some. All right, first up, Cleveland at the Rams. Rams by 3.5. The total is 40. Joe Flacco has been named the backup. I guess it will be either DTR if he clears concussion, which he probably won't, or PJ Walker. And they've kind of made it clear that they don't want to go back to Walker. So I'm assuming if DTR is indeed ruled out, we do see Flacco take the field here. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, too much uncertainty. The line's too high, over 3, but I'm not running to bet the Browns. Their defense should give Stafford and that offense problems just from a matchup and schematic. You don't want to play a lot of zone and not get pressure against Stafford and those receivers, which you won't get from the Browns. But you probably won't get Denzel Ward again, who was out last week. Emerson got hurt. Garrett got hurt. Tomlinson hurt his hand. Walker hurt. Thornhill
could be a different defense. Could be a different defense.
And you saw that against the Broncos last week. It just got bad. And then Cooper's hurt. He's probably going to be limited from what I hear.
Yeah, rib injury. And that's even if, because I've noticed this with receivers in particular this year, DK Metcalf had a rib injury off the injury report, but if you watch him play, you could tell it's affecting him. Terry McLaurin, I think had a toe early in the year, maybe it was preseason, but hasn't been on the injury report. Watching him play, you could tell it affects him. There's been a number of guys where Cooper Kupp a couple weeks, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, ankle injury, completely off the injury report, and then he's gimping around like after like the first drive of the game. It's like, I don't know what it is with, I don't know if it's a pride thing or the trying to skirt the rules or what, but like it seems like, especially with wide receivers, these guys just get taken off the injury report and they're still hurt. So yeah, that Cooper loss is a big one because he has been their entire, like, I mean, Njoku's playing well, but you know, he's getting you 8 to 10 yard receptions at a time. Cooper averaging 16 yards a catch. That would be big for the Browns if he's limited in any type of way with a backup.
Yeah, and PJ Walker is so bad. We know who he is, so I couldn't. There's too much uncertainty in this game. Pass.
Yeah, I thought about the total, but that would be if the Browns defense was healthy. With the way it is, it's a toss-up game. It's Wednesday.
You need all the
really
corners to do everything that they do.
Yeah.
They play man,
right. You got Kupp,
Garrett
got
obviously needs to be fully
massive.
Healthy.
Yeah. It's Wednesday. There's just way too much uncertainty to handicap this accurately. But I will say, like, the total being 40 and the line being 3.5 tells you that the market at least early in the week is expecting the Browns not
banged
to
up
be
Browns. I don't think Ward's playing and Garrett's not going to be 100%.
Yeah, so because 40, the total should be like 38-ish if
37,
38. Yeah, if everyone's healthy. So Miami at Washington, Commanders 9.5 point underdogs at home. The total is 50. This is another one of these spots. I feel like we've said this a couple of times this year with Washington, or it's like it's too many points, but I don't know if I can trust Washington. I don't know what I'm going to get from Washington outside of a fuck ton of passes. Like besides that, I don't really know what I'm going to get from Washington. I don't know where the effort is defensively. I mean, it's a crapshoot. So, you know, it's a little too many points on the number, but that defense scares me. And even with Miami missing Phillips, you know, Ramsey on the outside, that's big against, you know, Washington's pretty receiver oriented. So stay away from me. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, line's too high based on what I projected.
Mm-hmm.
But like I projected like 7. So I got to 10. Maybe I think about it. But Miami blows these teams out. It's what they do. Like how many times we got to see it? So they just, Washington's dead last EPA per play defense on the year.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some guys that they got rid of halfway through the year, but they don't have anymore. I don't know how they can stop Miami. And then on the other end, Miami's defense since week 7, top 5 EPA per play. So they got their secondary healthy. Phillips loss will hurt in the long run. But they're starting to get a hang of Fangio's system. Pretty complex system, takes some time. So yeah, I mean, Hal throw some picks, take some sacks. I mean, they have the offensive firepower to kind of like keep up, get in the back door. But we've seen Miami blow out these inferior teams all year long. But I can't lay it because I just don't. I make it 7.5, so pass.
So the Giants have only had 3 games this year over 200 net passing yards. That game against Arizona in week 2, where you still had Daniel Jones and a fairly healthy roster, and the 2 games against Washington, both with backup quarterbacks. So this defense is bad. Yeah, and now you're going against Miami with a healthy Waddle, a healthy Hill, and probably a healthy Achane as well. Yeah. So it's like even though, because we talk about this a ton, it's like you can model it, and what that does is it keeps you from projecting too many outliers. You know, kind of keeps you in that one standard deviation, but that's only part of it. You know, then you have to kind of look at the whole situation, and I just don't think I do think Miami is probably a better bet to blow out Washington than Washington is to keep it a 1-score game and cover the number.
Yeah, maybe you get some. It's a slower track. You could get some rain. Hope for some there. But I mean, I want no part of Washington in this.
I mean, Miami put up 34. I mean, granted with a pick six, but 27 on a top 5 Jets D at on the road last week. So I don't think it's going to slow them down too much. And they're rested. But I guess both teams are. But should be a lot of points. Probably lean over if anything. Washington's going to pass a ton. Miami, no resistance probably from Washington's defense. So it's a high total, but don't hate the over. But this is a pass for me. Just not sticking out. There are a lot of like all the 6-pack picks we talked about. I think some great spots this week. So I don't really see much of a reason to dabble in this one, and Cleveland Rams to be determined. It's Wednesday for us, but that will be a wrap.
Has Miami covered in all their wins against the under 500 teams?
Let's see.
They covered against the Giants. They covered against the Panthers.
No, not the Raiders. They did not cover the Raiders. They did not. Cover
the Raiders. That was their offense.
20-13. Yeah, and the Raiders had a shot at the end zone, I think, to end the game, but Ramsey picked it. So that was
Tua had a horrendous game.
Yeah, he's had some of those. I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like he's not. I know you said Miami has a chance, is one of those teams that can win a Super Bowl, and I agree. I mean, their offense is just if that offense gets hot, but Tua just like he doesn't give me the same confidence that like a Mahomes or Allen or even a Stroud. Tua is more in that Trevor Lawrence category where it's like I know the talent is there, and I know he can be efficient, but I just don't see the killer instinct. I saw it in college, but I haven't seen it in the pros just yet. But
I agree.
Why we play the games. Yeah, that's why we play the games though. So excited for this year's playoffs, but laying off this Miami Washington game. And Poor went out for Survivor. You told me to go.
I told you.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't. I mean, that was just bad handicap by me. I had more confidence in the Vikings, and Josh Dobbs just a disaster game. I mean, not all the picks were his fault, but still disaster game. But hey, my boy Justin Fields stacking these W's. Got to keep pace with Jordan Love and them boys. But we made it 12 weeks. Can't complain. That on
unfortunately, Fields keeps winning to get that draft pick up, but they still have the Panthers draft pick for a quarterback.
I know. That's not. It's fortunate for them. Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I know. I'm saying not for Fields.
But does he really want to stay in Chicago? I'm sure he would. No. He wouldn't mind going to like a team that felt they could, like that was excited to have him.
I think he could use a good change of scenery. It would help both teams. Him and the Bears.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just it doesn't really match up when you think Chicago Bear football and the way.
Yeah, you need him you need him out indoors.
Yeah,
he needs to go to like the Vikings.
I mean, Kevin O'Connell probably do some things with the field. I wouldn't. I mean, if the 49ers hadn't hit on Purdy, I bet Shanahan might be interested as well. But I digress. So hopefully everyone had a profitable Survivor, at least with those what was it, 11 weeks. I think I ended up in the final 3 in ours, and made it pretty far in a couple others. So
we have both ended up in the same place, baby.
Yeah. Just 10 weeks later for me, but you got looks like you're gonna get some revenge because you've been catching me in the 6-pack. Just 2 point. My lead is down to 2. It's probably
a good race till the end.
Lowest it's been since I think like two seasons ago at least. So
yeah.
I'm wilting. I just don't want to go to overtime. I don't want to go to overtime. I don't know if I'm on the same page with Gabe in this one. So trying to win it in regulation, but we'll be back next week for week 14. That's a wrap for week 13. Of course, you can hear more of myself with Sean Kerner, the odds maker, talking fantasy, DFS, all that good stuff on the Fantasy Flex podcast. We also got our player projections episode right here on this channel where we talk guys we're high and low on, top 5 at each position, and some props. And you can hear Stuckey talking college football over on the Big Bets on Campus podcast on a Friday morning. Stuckey is on X at Stuckey2. I am on X at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Also, don't forget to check the Action Network Discord server. Link in the episode description. Until week 14, let's get this shmoney.